Thank you, Christine. So good morning, and as I said, excited to have you all here. We'll get started in a couple of minutes, but in the meantime, we would love to hear where folks are tuning in from, whether that be an institution, a nonprofit organization, a foundation, what have you. We'd love to hear where you're tuning in from and what realm of fundraising or philanthropy or education you may be situated in. So if you wouldn't mind dropping that in the chat so that folks can get to know each other a bit more and know that who's in the room. I'd love to hear where you're tuning in from. For the folks just joining, as I mentioned, we'll be starting at 5 after the hour, so 11:05 Eastern time. So if you can put into the chat where you're tuning in from, what institution, what organization you may be tuning in from, as well as what you do or what your role is or your function is within fundraising, philanthropy, education, what have you. So wonderful. We've got some folks tuning in from New York, from Tougaloo. We love that. Good morning to everyone. Thank you for being here and taking time out your day. We've got some folks from St. John's University, or St. Joe's, excuse me, in Pennsylvania. Thank you for joining us. We've got some internal UNCF tuning in from Detroit. Thank you. Thank you. We've got a good mix of folks. So I'm really excited about today's presentation and that you all are able to join us today. So as I mentioned, we'll get started at 5 after the hour. Just to let other folks get into the room, get situated. Turn on your cameras if you'd like. Right. I always feel like I should be singing Jeopardy music or something to pass the silence, but I do also appreciate silence that allows people to ground themselves and get situated in positions before we start our presentation today. So very excited about this fundraising fireside that we have today. Good to see you, Rodney. Thank you for tuning in, based in the DMV. Good luck on your search. And for folks that are just joining us, if you wouldn't mind putting into the chat where you're tuning in from, what institution you're at or organization, or if you're on the search, what realm of philanthropy or fundraising or education you are situated in. We'd love to know more about you. If you wouldn't mind putting that into the chat. We'll get started in about 1 minute or so. All right, so according to my time, that minute is up. So as I mentioned, good morning and appreciate you all for being here for the UNCF Philanthropy Institute's Fundraising Fireside Series. We are joined today by Dr.TiaTyree, who will be doing a presentation on tips to understand and tell stories. So very excited for today's presentation. Next slide, please. So we have a handful of housekeeping rules before we get into today's presentation. So please be aware that this session is being recorded. We want to make sure that we have an opportunity to document this great information that we'll get today, as well as disseminate that information out. So you will be getting if you register for the session, you will be getting an email with the recording, and we'll also be publishing the recording online on YouTube, as well as our LinkedIn, so that you can go and view the recording afterwards, as well as share it with your peers and your colleagues. So well, I'm very excited for that. If you do feel comfortable to do so, because we love to build a community, please feel free to turn on your camera. We just want to make sure that people feel like they can feel engaged and be engaged in today's conversation. So if you're in a position to do so, please turn on your camera, but also keep yourself muted, because we don't want to hear any feedback or any audio connections that may impact Dr. Tyree's presentation. But if you do have a question or you want to elevate something up while we are in the presentation, feel free to use the chat feature, or you can raise your hand and our team will call on you. But more than likely, your question will get answered throughout today's presentation, and we'll also have a opportunity at the end to take a handful of questions. So if you do have any questions for Dr. Tyree throughout the presentation, please feel free to submit those via the chat, and we'll get to those once we get to the end of the presentation. As always, feedback is very important for us. We want to make sure that we are, engaging with speakers and presenters and subject matter experts that are relevant and necessary to the topical areas that you all are a part of within your fundraising and philanthropy journeys. So we love to hear what you would like to see in the future as we continue to build out and flesh out our fundraising fireside series. So please stick around to make sure that you complete the evaluation form so that we not only get feedback about today's presentation, but also about future presentations that we'll hold later down the line. And then by all means, connect with us on LinkedIn. That is your easiest and surefire way to make sure that you are tapped into the presentations that we have moving forward, as well as any other resources, tools, or tips or techniques that we share as it relates to fundraising and philanthropy. So we'll share our LinkedIn information later in the presentation, so you'll be able to not only continue the conversation on LinkedIn, but also join us for future sessions over there as well. Next slide, please. So as I mentioned, very excited about today's presentation and to have Dr. Tyree here with us today. So Dr. Tyree is the Interim Associate Dean and Professor at Howard University's Kathy Hughes School of Communications. She teaches communications courses with a focus on strategic communications and social media. Her research interests include hip hop, rap, reality television, film, and social media, as well as African American and women's representations in media. She has several books that she's published, or book chapters that she's published, and peer-reviewed articles that she's also been a part of, such as those in Women in Language, Howard Journal of Communications, Journalism, The Theory, Practice, and Criticism, Journal of Black Studies, and the International Journal of Emergency Management. She is the author of The Interesting and Incredibly Long History of American Public Relations and co-editor of HBCU Experience, the book, Social Media, Pedagogy and Practice, as well as Social Media, Culture, and Identity. And for today's presentation, she will be sharing how social media success can be achieved by understanding your audience, identifying the correct platform, and developing stories that connect to app users. So very excited for her. My name is Geneva Dampere. I serve as the Director of Strategy and Operations within UNCF's Teaching and Learning Center. And within our Teaching and Learning Center, we house the UNCF Philanthropy Institute. So next slide, please. So a bit about the Philanthropy Institute and why we're all here is because we have a mission to really support and uplift fundraisers and philanthropy experts and individuals such as yourselves that work in spaces of multiculturalism and diversity. So we really want to make sure that as we are engaging with the space of philanthropy and fundraising, that we are really creating opportunities for our fundraisers that not only look like us, but are doing mission-aligned work to feel like they can connect with one another, engage, learn, share, in a space that is attuned and custom for them. So we've created the Philanthropy Institute to really make sure that we can create a space where we are diversifying the content that we're producing so that fundraisers that are doing mission-aligned work for institutions, BIPOC-serving organizations, as well as nonprofits, have that space to learn about what is intentional and engaging for 21st century philanthropy. So in terms of our pillars, we try to create fundraising or increase fundraising capacities for our HBCU member institutions, as well as HBCUs writ large, and communities that are serving BIPOC organizations or BIPOC communities, as well as creating professional development opportunities such as these, where fundraising professionals can get together and learn from experts such as Dr. Tyree. And then thirdly, we also try to engage strategically and intentionally with executive boards so that board members across the country understand what it means to build a culture of philanthropy within their organizations. So that's a bit about the Philanthropy Institute. If you want to learn more, we'll give some contact information later down in the presentation so you can engage with us and learn more about what we do and how you can be a part of it. So with that, I will turn it over to Dr. Tyree to provide our presentation today.
All right, well, again, thank you all for joining me today. I know it's a lot to sometimes carve out time in your schedule for yourself, and I consider this something for yourself. Anytime you're trying to improve your day-to-day, it's always a benefit. So I have a lot to share. I am going to give the slides to you, so that should allow you to kind of just sit back and focus and listen. I am a visual learner and a visual teacher, so there's a lot of images that I will talk through. Some will go through quickly, some are kind of funny, some are easier to digest. But just know that you'll have the slides, you'll have the recording, so you can just kind of just focus on, being here. The objectives are kind of simple in my humble opinion. We're just going to talk about what it means to strategize. We don't want anyone to just kind of do a one-off on social media. You want to be able to understand what it's like to plan on social media, understanding your audience, which is what the planning is for. So if you truly understand your audience, you can truly set a plan that might actually have the results that you need. Understanding platforms. I know that we often just say, well, we've got to be on Facebook, or you have to be on Instagram, or everybody's doing TikTok, so we need to be on TikTok. But understanding who's on there, why they're there, and what you can do on there is critically important. And then, of course, what actually is the content that's going to make a difference, what you should put in a post, what you should leave out of a post. All of that is important. We're going to put this into perspective really quickly. If you are one of these people, there's no reason to feel guilty. You are among the norm. But I would say just understanding that this is all going to be captured mostly around a social media strategy is what's key. So most people sleep with their phones or have their phones next to them on their nightstand. Most people will go home, if they don't have their phone. That's how important it is for their day. We check our phones more than 100 times per day. If you think that's a lot, it's not. It's sort of almost second nature to do it, and you're doing it whether you realize it or not. There's all this data says more people have access to a phone or have a phone than a toothbrush or a working toilet in the world, not the United States. So understanding the importance of communication, understanding the importance that we have little mini computers in our hands every day is important to know. We read less, we watch more. That moment in time kind of happened in 2010, 2013, where more people were online than they were offline in the United States, and more people and content turned visual. And as for our attention span, it used to be in the early 2000s about 13 seconds. If anyone is around my age, I know that that when we were younger, somebody could tell you their telephone number and we got it. You only had to say it once. We could go home and literally dial them up, or we could hold that telephone number until we got to a piece of paper and pencil and write it down. We've lost kind of those skills. Most of us couldn't even remember someone's telephone number and a close loved one if we had to, because it's so dialed into our phone. So we used to be at 13 seconds. It went down to 8, which again is less than a goldfish. And what the last one is, I want you to understand the difference is that's where we are at 3 to 5 seconds. And that's the problem with what we're going to learn today, is not that your attention span is 3 to 5 seconds, but that's how long you have to catch a scroller who's on their feed and looking for something that's exciting, entertaining, or compelling to stop the scroll. So what I'm going to talk to you today about, and I go an entire week in my social media class to go through this. We have an entire semester in our intro class that does this slide. So I would not dare try to bore you with what it all means. I just want you to focus really on, I believe that's your right side. And just to say that when you're planning in this, strategic communication space, there will be a lot of acronyms: RACE, ROSI, RPI. That's how you could plan. Right? And each one of those phases has something you should do to properly execute your plan. At Howard University, we teach our students to 8-point plan, because if you notice, the most stages and the other ones are 5. We teach our students to really break down the planning into 8, because it ensures that they are covering all the important aspects of what it's like. And that's the situation that you find yourselves in. What are you trying to do? What's your goal? That's where your SWOT planning comes in. And if you notice, the audience is second. because that's literally what your entire plan is based on. That's the foundation. The objectives, what are you trying to do? The strategies, the manner in which you're going to go about making sure those objectives are made. The tactics, those are the tasks that you're going to do. You know, the timeline, it could be, you know, you want to do this in a week. It could be a month. It could be a year. It could be based on an academic year. It could be based on, you know, a season or a quarter. But understanding when you're trying to do this is critical. And of course, the budget. I know so many people think that social media is free, and it is not. And we'll get into what that looks like in a minute. And of course, you can't do all of this planning if you're not evaluating whether your objectives were set. So again, dense slide, but you'll have that. But again, understanding that planning is critical to this process. So knowing your audience too, and here's a little trick for whenever I do a presentation. My bolding is things that I want you to kind of lock into your brain, and bolding helps do that. But the only way you can succeed again is to understand your audience, and your objectives are based on information or behavioral. Like, I just want to tell you something, right? I just want you to know this. Informational. Or behavior means I want you to do this. I want you to donate. I want you to follow us. I want you to come to a webinar. I want you to come to campus. I want you to download and listen to this podcast. So behavioral, of course, is harder to do, but you have to understand the difference. And how you write and your calls to action matter if you're just trying to tell someone something versus if you're trying to get them to do something. Understanding your audience usually is based on geographics, demographics, and psychographics. I'm going to break those down in the next 2 slides. But it's complex, right? It's not always, oh, she's a heterosexual middle-aged woman from New York, right? That's not always enough information to get someone to donate, right? Or, oh, they're an HBCU professor at a large university. Clearly they have money, they'll donate. Well, maybe I won't donate to this because I'm donating over here. So you've got to give me a compelling reason to now donate to you, right? So there's a lot of things that can come into play when you're worrying about those 3 categories. And the best thing to do is, if you have different audiences, and sometimes you are trying to reach different stakeholders, who is the perfect person? If you could have this customer, and you know you can convince this customer, this donor, this faculty member, this parent to give to you, what are the qualities that person has? Because then you're going to start creating content that speaks to the qualities and the needs and the interests of those people. So understanding your buyer persona, or the perfect individual that you're trying to pitch to early, helps you understand all the content that you need to place. Let's talk about it. Usually everybody says, oh, I need to know the age, the race, the college education level, income, but there's more to it. There's so much more you could break an audience down into. Their personal habits, you know, whether they're bilingual, whether you need to make sure that you have content that speak to it. What's their job classification? Do they have military experience? What's their education? What's their marital status? What are their learning styles? Because again, if we're not reading and we're all very visual, how are you playing that into your content, right? Here's another one. Again, if you're talking about psychographics, you're talking about the personal things that makes a person unique. You know, I love to do puzzles. I love pickleball. I love movies. I love going to the beach. How do you make sense of that when someone else in your audience may like to cook, may like to go on hikes, may like to do, right? So you've got to know all those things, because maybe if you have a very urban base, then you're not going to do images of mountains, you know, as a part of your campaign. It's not going to resonate, right? So understanding what people like, what catches their attentions, what their personal habits are, their recreational habits, all of those things matter in how you're going to pitch to them, the images that you pitch, the guests that you might have on your podcast. All of that matters. So again, where is your audience? I want you to look where X is, Because I know that when we see the band of social media across, we see X or Twitter right along with everyone else. But if you notice, Facebook is still incredibly important. And I know if you're talking to a certain audience of a certain age, you may think that you don't need Facebook. But my guess is if you're trying to get money, you're in the Facebook group. So don't forget Facebook, YouTube, of course, which means your content needs to be on YouTube. How you make that happen, whether you're creating content specifically for YouTube or you're doing something like this where you're recording an event and you're dropping it on YouTube, you need to figure that out. But again, Facebook, YouTube, here comes Instagram, there's TikTok, Snapchat, which is a whole nother thing for the young folk. And again, Twitter and Pinterest there are some dedicated Pinterest people. I'm one of those people who had to take it off my phone, just FYI. So yes, don't forget about Pinterest because that's important. Now that's for you to know. This is what I want you to now shift your brain to think about the user or the audience. Because I know a lot of time when we're at work, we're thinking about what we need to do. I need to put something on Facebook. I've got to get, this post out. But are you thinking about the person the post is for, right? Often we just think about what we need to put in the post. Think about what that person on the other side of the phone or the computer is getting out of the post. Why would they stop, right? So this is just a funny little thing I show my students and things like that because it gets you to think about the user and not you as the creator. So why are we on Facebook? I like donuts. I'm going to follow some donut shops. I want to go to the place where they have donut recipes. Twitter, I'm eating a donut. I want to show you what it is. Maybe I want to argue with you about, the Boston cream is better than the jelly donut. We just like a lot of arguing over on X or Twitter, right? YouTube, I'm watching donut videos. I want to see how to cook donuts. I want to see where the good donut shops are. I want to see a review of it, right? Very visual. Snapchat, here's the video of me and my donut. Here's a picture of me eating it. It's gone. You saw it, it's gone, right? TikTok, very energetic, very storytelling platform, but it's usually not something that people want to stay on there, at least on the video, very long, right? Instagram, again, there are reels, there's video there, but it's really a very visual, stunning and visual. People usually aren't on Instagram raw and real. It's very staged, right? Pinterest, here are the boards. This is this place you can go. These are all the recipes. This is the best donut shops in, Baltimore or DC, right? LinkedIn, I am a donut maker. I am a donut eater. These are my skills related to that. I'm a chef. I have these things, right? And Reddit, all the questions being asked. So think about the user and what they're doing and why they would want to stop at your post. And again, choosing the right platform. You think you need to be everywhere. And I do believe that larger institutions should have a presence on every single platform, and not necessarily for the reason you think. Even if you're not producing mass amounts, if someone is talking about you on one of these platforms, you need to let them be able to tag you. You need to have a hashtag where if something's going wrong, you have the ability to tap in. But yes, producing content, but for the other mastermind reason is to be able to know if something is happening about you on one of these platforms. So I won't go through this. These are the major ones. Know that if you're going to have a presence, it's likely that you need to have a presence on these 7 platforms. And yes, there are dozens of ones that people spend their time on. One of the first things I usually ask in my class on the first day is how many social media apps do you have on your phone? And then how many do you use on a daily basis? Usually it's about 10 to 12 that are on their phone. And then usually people use between 5 and 7. Sometimes it's 3 to 5. But knowing that people are engaging on multiple platforms each day, those are what we call active users. So every piece of content that you create, we're looking in the tactics section, right? We're making our way down there, should have a reason. Is it brand awareness? Is this your special back to school campaign? And you're just trying to get, students, for example, this is 2025. And when you go back to school, are you just going to kind of get your stakeholders to donate $25, right? For this academic year, AY 25, whatever it is, very manageable number. Are you trying to share a product? Is it a contest that you're saying you're going to do? Is it about increasing sales? No, it's about donations, right? It's just building brand identity. Like, think through, what am I trying to do? Now, this is what the planning does for you, right? But how does this post fit into the planning, fit into the goal, fit into the objective, right? It should be a reason for it. And I want you to know that you have a range of tactics that you can use. We teach the PESO model, and I demand when I have my students that they have to go across the PESO model in their tactics section, right? How are you trying to get earned media? Can you get an influencer to talk about you? Can you get a blogger to write a piece about you? Are you going to do a traditional release? What is it that you're doing where you can get someone else to speak about you? Because we know that it's important to have that endorsement of other people, that credibility that comes in it. So can you get some earned media? Can you get someone, another HBCU, another organization to share your content? Is there an advocate who's like, oh, I'll repost that, right? How can somebody else tap into what you are putting out and believe in it and share it and then amplify your message, get it to more people, have your impressions increase, right? I know you don't have money. Every client we get in our course doesn't have money. They don't. And what I say to them, or my students to say to them, is you can do a campaign for $20. You can do a campaign for $20. So it doesn't have to be $100,000 or $50,000. You can throw $50 in behind something and see a significant difference. Think about hiring a videographer, a photographer. Now, I think Canva does all the work for us, so I don't think we necessarily need graphic designers anymore. However, there's a big caution in choosing the free templates because all your stuff looks like everybody else's. But even then, it's not free, right? Go get Canva Premium. So just know that, you need to pay for some things, whether it's a really small campaign, whether you're actually, want to do a real campaign, just pay for it, even if it's a small amount. And of course, all the things that you own, that's your own media, that's your website, that's your social media channels, that's all the things that you can control and you can put up yourself. So think about the PESO model. Think about your village, right? Think about cobbling together the money in your seat cushions. You have enough. You have enough to do paid media, even if you don't think you do. So this is where we kind of shift gears really hard into your content, what you can put in, what you need to put in. And that last bullet right there, actually, it's not the last bullet. The next to last bullet, if you ever remember some things, this is one of the things that you need to remember. You can never do a post these days that does not have some type of visual to it. It will be passed quickly. And most platforms now require some type of visual to be added to even post, right? So we're getting past the idea that we're just putting up a link and we're going, right? We need something visual. We need a video. We need it. Work with online culture. Like right now, whether you know it or not, if you have a teen, at least I have 2 teens, and the Ice Bucket Challenge is back from USC, I think it is. So now they're all doing, mine is something about like Speak Your Mind Challenge or something like that. That's happening right now. When, Tessa told her, multiple point story, everybody was talking about that. When we were talking about being demure, right? And businesses immediately hop onto that because that's what's happening. That's what's trending. You should be thinking every day, how can I do this? I have like a whole day where we just talk about how brands take over trends. And it's important that it fits, it's professional, but if you can hop into a trend, do that, because that's how you're going to get some movement online. Always remember that people are usually on the small screen, which is their phone. We're not reading long paragraphs. I know it's important to you. What I do is so important to me, but how can you translate that online if I'm reading on a phone? We're not doing 5 and 8 paragraphs on our phone. No one's going to read that. So everything has to be thought about. If I'm looking at this on the screen, what is the end user thinking? And you need to adjust. 4 emotions that work always: happiness. Why do I watch all the cat and kitten videos and the puppy videos? It's because it makes people happy, right? Unfortunately, sadness has the exact same connection, right? As human beings, if we see someone sad, we usually want to know why, right? This is why, unfortunately, we share the police brutality videos. We see someone crying online, we stop for that, right? Fear is always something that the human, brain attaches itself to. And surprise, how many times have you watched a military video knowing from the very beginning exactly what's going to happen at the end, but you still watch it? Because the element of surprise is just something that we love. And from a very practical standpoint, when you're telling stories, we are conditioned as people who live in the United States of America. Since watching cartoons, since watching our favorite sitcoms, since watching Hollywood productions, we expect a beginning, a middle, and an end. I don't care if you're producing a 15-second video, a 30-second video, 1 minute, a 15. We expect a beginning, a middle, and an end. And the only way you can get away from that is if you say part 1, part 2, to be continued. I understand it's a part of a series, but you will frustrate people if you don't give them a beginning, a middle, and an end. Even in the shortest of content, we still expect that. Again, this is just a little something at the top. We translate what we read into our brains, right? We know that from when we would sit and we were little and read books, and those pictures start to develop in our brains. So think of how you're writing. Think of the content and what someone can create as a picture in their mind. And again, 80% of what they see, people remember. Right? So that picture, that image you give them, that smiling face, right? The kids at graduation, the person who just received the scholarship, right? The happiness on their face. Those are the things you want to put out because that's what people will remember. More to do things that I want to give to you. In that 8-point plan, there's key messages. And what I say always, our key messages aren't cute taglines, like Nike, just do it. We're not talking about that. I mean, one sentence that you would think someone should be able to repeat back to you if they were a part of this plan. If they bumped up to any of your tactics, that's something that they would know they would get out of it. So I tell my students, give me 10 key messages and I should see them in your blog. Someone should be saying that in your podcast. I should see that in your infographic. Because that's what you want people to remember. That's the pull through, and that's what should get you the results you want, right? Make the visuals count. If this is your audience and you're saying my audience, are, middle-aged Black women, college educated, why don't your visuals match your audience? Because that's what's going to make me go, oh, that's relevant to me. She looks like me, right? That matters. And if you have a diverse audience, make them diverse visuals. It doesn't matter, but your visuals have to match. Authentic and original content. And this is where Canva can be a problem. If you're stopping at the first free one and everybody's stopping at the first free one, that's not original. If you're not even changing the colors, it's a problem. So you want to make sure that everything looks like it came specially from you. and that it's true to your vision. Like Howard University is truth and service. Like that's what we talk about all the time. I know your company has a mission. I know your company has a vision. I know your school, talks about certain things. Those are the things that should come through and they become authentic, right? The real HU thing, right? And we go back and forth about that, but what makes you the real HU? What makes you the one that people should really say is authentic? I know I watched the last one and it was drilled down that you need statistics, you need data, and I 100% agree. Now, here's the trick when you're talking about everyday people, and I count myself in the everyday people because I will write the day away. But if I have to put some numbers in it, I'm going to pause, I'm going to think about it. I'm going to go get some coffee. I'm going to get out my calculator. I'm having a moment because now I have to do math, right? So some people, their brain just doesn't want to do math, right? We can't make sense of it. Knowing that's the case, if you're going to put stats in your data to tell compelling stories, do it. How you do it and what you put in matters. If you tell me 1 out of 4 students need financial assistance, done. If you say to me 25% of our programs at our school are underfunded, I got it. I understand that. If you say, a $5,000 donation will ensure, 1 classroom does this, people understand it. If you say, $1,000 can clear the balance on 2 students who are set to graduate, got it. Because I can visualize what that looks like. But if you say, 5,000 students need, well, how many? 5,000? Oh, that's a lot. Oh, well, they have 100,000 students. Well, that's not a lot. Do they really need my help? Right? So always putting your numbers into perspective, and more importantly, putting it into, I think, comparisons that people can easily get. Next bullet. Well, actually, the last are really important. Real people, real pictures, real objects is what I teach my students, right? I cannot necessarily connect to a cartoon picture. I don't want to connect necessarily to an emoji, a Bitmoji, right? Real people connect to real people. If you want me to give you money, where does that real money go? I don't want to see it going to like a fake little cartoon building on your graphic. Show me the actual building, right? That, because my brain will go, oh, we're trying to support that building. We're trying to support that student. Everything is snackable and shareable. So again, back to your 5 or 8 paragraphs that you put on your 5 to 8 sentence paragraph that you put on your website, which is going to fill my entire mobile phone screen. Not going to work. We know we have 280 characters in a post. You can put, 1,000 characters in a Instagram post. Should you? Nope. Because we're only going to see just the first few lines of the Instagram post anyway. That's where the magic happens. Anything after that, you're going to assume no one's going to see. So what can you say compelling there? Right? What's your description? Right? What's the text that you're adding on top of your picture on your story? Right? So everything you're thinking, if someone read this, they want to repost it. Tag everybody, because when you're tagging everybody, they're likely to share. Collaborate with folks, because again, in the peso model, the S was shared. If I'm collaborating with you, it's going to be shared. And the biggest thing is hashtags are not just like earrings or decorations. Hashtags get you into larger conversations. And more importantly, hashtags help aggregate your content. So if someone's like, oh, UNCF Philanthropy Institute, UNCF, I'm making this up, PL, I want to put that and see what pulls up, right? So hashtags do a multitude of things. You should have a special hashtag for every campaign. You should have a special hashtag for every audience. And you should have a special hashtag that is consistent to your organization. So no matter what, people just pull that hashtag up and they can see what's happening. And you can see what they're saying about you. Remember, that's the other half of this thing. Avoid clickbait. Oh my gosh, people will be extremely frustrated if you're putting false, content out to get them to donate, or you say whatever you say to get them to your website, and when they get to their website, it's just not what they expected. Avoid long content. We've talked about that. And questionable choices. Again, I talked about kind of looking at trends and seeing if you can get into a trend, but that's only if it makes sense, right? You don't want to do content that's so extraordinary or offensive because you were trying to be trendy. I think I'm coming to the end, so we're going to take a deep breath, and I'm watching the time to leave for questions as well. The most important thing is your owned content, OWNED, your owned content is critical. So if somebody wants to find out more information, everything should be anchored in your website, right? If your Instagram doesn't have a link tree where they're going to it and they can find all of the important links, please do that. And don't deactivate links, right? Just keep them, just archive them so people can always, if they stumble across an article from 3 years ago, or they happen to go into their email and something comes up. I've done it 1,000 times, and an old email comes up and they go, oh, and then they click it, they get back to where they were. Always remember that people are online, on mobile, and in person. So we're never forgetting what I say is the traditional stuff to do, although we're talking about social media. So again, posting across all platforms, that makes sense. Okay, that same piece, I teach my students, write a post, give me one idea. And then I tell them, move that across all the platforms. And you need to be able to shift that content to make sense across all that. So I tell them, all you're going to do, right? I'm minimizing it, right? All you're going to do is give me 2 ideas, but I want 8 posts. And they're like, huh? Because it's the math again, right? 2 ideas. I want you to move that across all the posts. Give me the hashtags. How many are you going to put on X versus how many you're going to put on Instagram? So yeah, am I supposed to be being quiet? I see a hand up. Was that my hand?
No, that's your hand.
Why did I do my hand? Anyway, so understanding how to move things across the platforms, I'll get that down in a minute. Think about email marketing, right? That's important these days. Everybody is on their email all the time. MailChimp is the ultimate. Think about influencer marketing. I spend a whole week on that, so I'm not going to get into it. Depending on how much money you have, you may just be at the nano or micro scale. If it's a shared content, you might be able to get to someone in any of those categories if they like you and they want to do that. SMS is big. My son is looking to go into college in the fall. He's applied to multiple places. I cannot tell you how many SMS messages I get all day from institutions. So it is a viable option now. Think about the old stuff, the old tactics that we used to do. The brochures and the flyers, all that stuff matters. Send to media and bloggers and influencers alike. There was a time where you would not even consider sending something to a blogger. Now they're right there with traditional journalists. And again, pay for ads, pay for sponsored content. It's not as expensive as you think it is. And my biggest thing is you're not going to put out content, close your computer, shut off your phone, and then not engage. People, and I know you and I have been there, we put up something online, we thought we were cute, and we were waiting for the likes. Not just me. I rarely do it, but I do it. Right? So, and you're like, nobody like that? Oh, there it is, right? So it's the same at work. If someone goes, I love Howard University, like, share, right? Oh, my nephew's a Bison. He loves it at Howard. Oh, we're so happy he enjoys being here. It doesn't matter. People want acknowledgement. People feel special when someone likes or comments or shares. It is your job to make people who are following you feel special. When they feel special, that's when that comes. And again, I'm coming to the end, and I'm watching the time as well, but this is, again, it's about engagement, about storytelling, making sure that you're a part of them and their stories. If someone takes the time to tag you in a post and it is appropriate, you should be sharing that, because together, all the things, your post, and it's called user generated content, UGC is what we talk about. Their content with your content tells a bigger story. Okay, so if it makes sense, if it's supportive, if it's telling your story in a way that you can't tell it because it's you versus your audience versus, you know, your students, let them tell the story for you, because we believe other people who don't have an agenda before we believe people who do have an agenda and get a paycheck for doing what they do. So again, do your SWOT, be strategic, whichever one of those you want to do, whether it's the 8-point plan, whether it's Rosie Rob, it doesn't matter. Set a budget, use the peso model, avoid one-offs, have a plan, kind of stick to it, you know, engage, evaluate, adjust, but just try to plan. And this is, I think, my final slide. Think about your branding kit. I'm aware that UNCF has given you some tools. Think about what your university or your organization has. Utilize stakeholders. If you have interns or volunteers, see what they do well. Try to get them to help you. Of course, Canva, Bitly, that's where you can go to get your QR codes and your link shortening. And the beautiful thing about using Bitly is they keep the stats for you. So you can actually go back and say, oh, you know, this link I put on, you know, Twitter, and this is how many people used it. This is where they were from. Eventbrite, if you're having an event. Loomly is the cheapest kind of version out there of scheduling. If you want to be kind of different, you can do Giphy and create your own GIFs. They're easy to do. I have my students do memes on image flip, because all of those things, if done well, catch people's attention instead of the same kind of glossy pictures. A little bit of different content could work. I know I said a lot, but I know you're keeping the slides and you have a recording. Come back.
Thank
So,
you. Yes, so we are opening it up for questions at this point. So we've got about 12 or so minutes for questions. We did have one that already popped into the chat from Christy. She asked, and Christy, feel free to come off mute if you want to ask your question directly, or if not, I'll ask it and elevate it up for you.
Oh, sure. So sometimes we're not allowed to use our real students. And I was curious what your thoughts were when we have to use a lot of stock photos, and how do you grab people's attention? Like for me, when I see a stock photo, I don't even want to read the article because I feel like, is that real, or is that just like a fake student that they're using? So do you have any tips that we could use?
this is where you pay for an aspiring model who looks like your students, who really is about to get professional shots, if possible, from you to use. So again, there are so many people out here who would love to be featured in a social media campaign. And that's who I would try to use, because I'm like you, I've already seen that person. I already know that individual from this campaign. So I, like you, are very cautious, but I think that's when you tap into your resources and you figure out, you know, an aspiring model or a friend or someone else who'd be willing to be highlighted, because people would love to be able to put on their, you know, their resumes or just brag to friends that they're a part of this campaign. So that's what I would do.
That's a great answer. And to add one more recommendation, I would suggest that you use some hyper niche stock imaging websites that folks probably aren't using, so that you could get some not only tailored, but probably more specific graphics that folks probably haven't used in previous stock images. So that may allow you to really leverage the viewpoint of what you're trying to, the demographic that you're looking for that may have not already been published before. So I'll drop a couple of the ones that I've used previously in the chat just to give you some recommendations there as well. That was a great question. Any other questions for Dr. Tyree? We've got about 10 minutes or so. I have a question for you, Dr. Tyree, while we wait for others. How would you suggest that folks use their branding colors, especially if they're really distinct colors in the iconography that they use across social media platforms, other than, you know, making it a background or making it the graphic text for their press for the publishings that they do.
Yeah, so I literally just did a presentation on this yesterday with online branding, and speaking about how the grant that I use has tailored all of their online branding to match a federal government agency. And we do that not only in text and in lines and in graphics, whether it's your social media graphic and you use that as a background. And it's nothing wrong that having an accent color. So we usually stay with those two colors that are in our logo. We use that. But for an accent color, so we have a podcast series, and that series we used an accent color to kind of make sense, that so you could visually see that, oh, this is a new series. But I am a firm believer that you have got to stay true to your online aesthetic, whatever that is. That includes the colors, that includes that your logo should be the profile picture across all your platforms. If you're using something and you want to do something different, make that your cover art, but stay consistent. So yes, it's really just in the lines and the colors and the text, but do not hesitate to have one accent color if it's a different campaign.
Great, thank you. And Roz, I see your hand up. Please go ahead.
Yep. So I have a question. I fundraise across 2 states, and well, really 3, but my greatest challenge is resources. I'm an office of 1, basically. I have a lot of volunteers. In terms of leveraging resources, what are your thoughts, or one, do you have any recommendations? Because I don't even have a line item budget for, I have marketing, but I tend to put that into my paid advertising for billboards, electronic billboards. People love them and they send me pictures, so I know they see them. But our social media presence is extremely weak in my areas. And I was considering trying to get student interns and paying them. But what are if you have any thoughts or recommendations on how I can help to leverage social media, or, you know, in my areas? Because there's some are very small cities, but we have campaigns. They're active. They may generate 125,000. But I just wondered.
Are you posting? You're posting online?
Rarely. I don't even
So
post
you
on my
could,
own social media. So that's
so
a
you
challenge.
definitely, so online campaigns
Okay.
are very, very beneficial, because literally someone can see it and push a button and get right to donating to you in seconds. If I'm driving by that billboard, I'm just driving by that billboard. I'm going somewhere. I'm not supposed to have my phone. Is not going to work. So you
Okay.
really do need to shift your attention to social media. Again, SMS, people get people are signing up and it's saying in a text message, you know, do you want to donate? And you're just hitting it right there. QR codes everywhere. So
Yeah,
you really do need to shift. But the reason why I asked you if you're posting is because if you're already posting to anybody in the room, just boost your post. You don't even have to create a campaign. You don't have to create a special ad and feel like I'm coming outside of my comfort zone because I'm not an advertising exec. Don't. Just boost your post. Right?
Okay.
And make sure you're boosting the right post. So don't think you have to have like something special. If it's there already, just do that. But I'm telling you now, in communications, so many people come and ask for us to send them interns because students are already doing the work online. They just need to translate it to you. So I would absolutely say use interns, boost your post, and the resources are there already online for you to do that. If you are you doing MailChimp at all, just making sure that there are links in there for donating, because that's all online, you know, branding and marketing and
Yeah,
things like that.
we do we have an account with Constant Contact.
Mm-hmm.
And we use that not as much as we should, because my primary role is fundraising, and then I do a lot of, which goes to social media. I'm trying to increase awareness. Um
So can I
because
tell you something? You're probably so macro in how you're working. Like a billboard is a huge thing. You could do one less billboard, spread that across social media, and the impact that you would have, the difference that you would have would be incredible because your money goes so much further online than it does in, you know, out of office or out of home. I'm telling you right now. You
okay,
would
and
benefit
I
greatly.
have a meeting with someone that well, I have one this afternoon and then someone else. So I'll push on that and then just have to invest in it. We
And it doesn't
have
have to
our
be a
priorities,
it
so
doesn't
that's
have to be a
helpful.
lot. I'm telling you now, you could do a $20 Facebook campaign right now off a boosted post. You could do a $50 campaign on Instagram off a boosted post. I'm not talking $10,000.
Okay.
I'm talking about small amounts. You could literally say for X, I want my account to be, you know, in the like and recommend. And how much is that going to cost? Pennies. Pennies compared to anything you're doing, you know, that's really significant with buying airtime or buying, you know, anything in print.
Okay. This is helpful. Thank you very
Mhm.
much. And I will execute and see because I'm in the beginning stages. So
Make sure whatever you do is landing back to your account. Yeah, I'm sorry, your website in a way that whatever you're putting out, it's coming to your site and it makes a difference. So let's say you call your campaign 25 for 25, right? So
mhm.
you're trying to get somebody to give you $25 for this academic year 25. When they get to your website, they should see 25 for 25 on the homepage. So they're like, oh, that's what I saw. They're clicking that and they're going to the content, right? If they're not just ready to go ahead and donate based on what they saw on social media.
Okay, and I work for UNCF. We
Mhm.
are extremely event driven, which is not the typical model for higher education. And I had to adjust. So absolutely doing some peer-to-peer and also some things with young professionals. But for event purposes is where I'm
There
really
should be
trying to,
QR codes everywhere at every event allowing people to donate.
yeah,
At
we
the
do
end,
that.
yeah,
We're
at
we're
the end of
masters at that.
yeah, at the
But
end,
I'm
what
saying getting the word out that we exist. What I've been told is, oh, we didn't know you were doing that. We didn't even know you still existed.
so that you've got to probably do it. Yeah, you're back to awareness and brand identity.
Okay.
Just the basics. Just the basics. And that's where your influencer marketing comes in, right? Having
Mm-hmm.
people who know you, like you, love you, start to tell your story on your behalf. That's probably what you're missing. Because if you're not you're not able to get attention yourself, then who are your stakeholders that could tell your story and promote you in a way that you're not able to do? Because that's where we are today. We listen to other people more than we listen to the actual authority. You're the authority, so you've got to get other people to say, you know, donate to them. They're doing great things. Donate to them. They helped me. Donate to them. I know their history. So you've got to get your storytellers working for you.
Yeah, and that's a part of this. All of this has been helpful, and that's one of the things that I'm going to do as well. And we've made some progress, but I still think there's a lot of opportunity. So, but thank you so much for your presentation. I don't want to take up everybody's time. This was really great.
Thank you, Roz. And we appreciate that you asked such a thorough question so that other folks were able to get some nuggets from that as well. So we are at time for today's presentation, but we appreciate you all for sticking around. I know that we probably didn't get to everyone's question in the chat, but do please submit the evaluation form that you see is both on the screen as well as has been inserted into the chat so that we can get some feedback about today's presentation as well as what you would like to see in the future. And then you can also contact Dr. Tyree. Her email address is there on the screen as well as her social media tag. So you are able to engage with her online as well as via email. And then you can follow our TLC LinkedIn page so that you can not only see the video once we publish it and you'll get that via email as well, but you'll also be able to continue the conversation. So as engaging as this presentation was about how to make sure that we're engaging on social media, please make sure that you're tapping in with us on our social media as well. So with that, we want to close out for today's session. If you are a member of CFRE, you do get 1 point for being here today. So once you go into your CFRE account, you'll be able to use today's title as well as UNCF to make sure that you're adding that one CFRE continuing education credit to your account so that you get credit for being here. So we really, really thank you for your time today and for your commitment to professional development and to whatever philanthropy space that you're in and you're situated in. We appreciate your time and we thank you for being here, and we will be closing out today's session. Thank you again, Dr. Tyree, for being here. We appreciate you so, so much.